I chair the, and this is difficult because we've been wrestling with what our name really is. Citizens Strategic Planning Implementation Group, whatever. The study, the Poggemeier study, one of its first recommendations was that council appoint a citizens committee to oversee the implementation of, to try to coordinate the implementation of, or somehow wave a magic wand over the implementation of whatever, to see if we could coordinate some of the study's major points, make sure we were covering all the bases. Well, first of all, the first great revelation was nobody else knew what we were supposed to do either. Until we started having conversations, the committee started having conversations, we realized our job is not to do anything except gather information and to identify areas of the study, areas of need, and just make those aware to other people. We're facilitating that process. So, now that we've got ourselves pretty well set on what it is we're supposed to do, even though we don't really know what our name is, we're moving forward. And you know, it's been a frustrating process until we've gotten to this point where we have an idea of what we're all about. Now we're moving forward. Before I go any further, I'd like all of the members of the citizens group to please stand. This group has been phenomenal. Their ideas, their energy, their anger sometimes. There's even been rumors that some people have been asked to be quiet. I don't know who that might be. Anyway, we are going to continue. Our task is to involve more and more people, more and more citizens, because citizens are the only people that are going to make this work. The elected officials cannot do it all by themselves. One group can't do it all by themselves. We're a community together. And we're moving forward as a community. So I guess my only other task is to introduce someone that's already been introduced. And Charlene, it's your turn.
Okay. I'd like to start out with just saying that once again, I came in off of 11 Market Street, downtown, did the turn, and came here. And you know, it's a nice day out in that the sun is shining, but it's still an ugly day because everything's dark and dirty from the winter. But I'm still amazed at what you folks have here in Warren. And you know, it's harder sometimes for you folks that live here and see it every day to realize what an asset you have. But you have a beautiful community. We were impressed with it when we started back in 2008 working on this plan, and just this morning again, I still sit here and I say, wow. It's interesting to see some of the projects that we talked about actually under construction or completed. The Veterans Memorial Park, I mean, holy cats, how many communities can claim that they have that, they have it on their river, you know, all the things that you can do. So what I want to talk about a little bit today is hopefully some ideas that we express in the plan that will then help you with your discussion as you get into your brainstorming sessions. The plan itself is divided into 5 chapters. The first one is an introduction where we talk about the process that we went through. We talk about the steering committee, the changing demographics of the community. We analyzed all of your past studies. If you remember, that was big issue with city council, that we don't redo anything that you already did, and why do you need another study because you already had 100 of them. And so we went through all 100 of them, or whatever number there were, and came up with a summary so that now you folks do have a summary of all of those past studies that you can reference. The second chapter deals with public participation and what did we do to get the residents of the community involved in this whole planning process. The third chapter I think is very, very interesting, and that's the market analysis. And we had Boulevard Strategies out of Columbus here to help us with the market strategy. And I think he came up with some amazing information. And once again, very useful, especially for the downtown folks and the people that are doing economic development and housing-related issues in the community. Very, very interesting information in that market analysis. The fourth chapter, which is what I'm going to talk a little bit more about, is the citywide recommendations. What does the city, as a public entity, what are some of the recommendations that they need to take responsibility for, versus chapter 5, which is the neighborhood chapters. And if you recall, if you were involved in the process, when we got into this whole thing, we weren't necessarily going to take a neighborhood approach until we really saw all of the issues, how monumental the issues and the problems were that we were going to discuss. And we talked about, you know, we really need a grassroots approach to solving a lot of these problems. So we really broke it down into neighborhoods. And this map shows you the 5 neighborhood areas that we broke it into. And we tried to include your neighborhood groups within the overall neighborhood, but we tried also intentionally not to stick to the ward boundaries. You know, we heard a lot about, you know, some issues about if it's not in my ward, I'm not going to support it, that sort of thing. So I said, okay, let's not go there. Okay, let's talk about real neighborhoods, real areas of the city. And so we broke it out into these 5 areas, which each of those 5 areas has a map on a table, and that's why you're sitting where you are. And I will say that one of the results of the study is the Warren Strengthening Communities grant that Melissa Holzhofer and her group received for the city. We have received 3 contracts, one with Historic Perkins, one with Northeast, and just recently one with Northwest. So we're going to start working with Northwest. We've had several meetings already with the other 2 groups, and we're going to meet with all 3 groups and continue to look at what did we say we needed to do, what are you doing, and how can we help you get where you want to be. So that's kind of ongoing. There's an executive summary in the plan, which is what I'm kind of going through. So if you want a quick and dirty about what's in the plan, look at the executive summary. One of the things that we talked about too was the Mahoning Valley organizational collaborative that was formed as part of this process, getting some funds from the Wien Foundation, and also willing to work with the community in terms of getting some empowerment into the neighborhood groups. So I've been out of the loop for probably about 6-8 months, so I don't know the status of some of these issues. So this may be a little bit of a reminder of some of the things that we talked about. But we had talked about some seamless transition between the planning process and what MVOC might do and what the strategic planning committee might do. There's a vision statement in the plan, which is in the executive summary. If you haven't read that lately, that's kind of an interesting read. It's a few paragraphs. But we talked about if we were looking back in 2025, what would we hope that a resident of Warren could say? And so it's really an interesting presentation of what we think the community could look like in 2025. So some of the key recommendations, we divided them according to the Main Street program, 4-step approach, and then we added a 5th step, which Pennsylvania has adopted in their Elm Street program, which is probably going to be adopted nationally. And that's organization, design, safe, clean, and green, promotion, and then the 5th being clean, green, and safe. Did I say that? Did I get them all? Promotion, I think I got them all. So the recommendations in the plan are divided into those categories, both within the neighborhood sections and within the citywide organization section. Some of the things we talked about under organization, who's responsible? John kind of talked about that whole issue. the agreement on the city's part to accept the neighborhood groups as speaking for their neighborhoods. A memo of understanding with MBOC. Revisiting the 2005 multiple building study. I mean, once again, you asked us to look at all those. We think there's some things, recommendations in there. You need to revisit those. Supporting Main Street. Supporting the newly established multi-county port authority, especially from an economic development perspective. Looking at helping the neighborhoods aggressively fight crime. And I know that's still an issue. It'll be an issue for a while. What are we doing? We talked about a crime-free multi-housing program that we know the city of Painesville has implemented, as have many cities across the country that's working really well. We give you the references there. Increasing the number of housing demolitions. And I think that with the neighborhood stabilization funds that the city received, Mike Keyes and his department have substantially increased the number of homes that are being demolished. So that's real progress. We also talked about implementing WIN, and a lot of folks that we've been talking to in the neighborhood groups don't really know the status of that. And that has actually been pretty successful as well. Back in September, Mike told me that 54 projects have been completed through the WIN program and another 37 were in process. So I think that that's happening as well. We needed to look at demolishing vacant industrial and commercial buildings. Supporting cleanup days, revisiting the 2004 City Parks Citizens Advisory Committee report. Once again, you asked us to look at that. There's a lot of some really cool recommendations in there, including creating a parks district and helping to raise funds for park improvements. Maintaining at least one park in each of those 5 neighborhoods. Okay. And then expanding and strengthening the shepherding program. There is a shepherding program here. There seems, for whatever reason, to be very difficult to get a shepherding agreement through the city, and we think that's kind of a no-brainer. Let's get that changed. Let's do what needs to be done to make that easier. And the skate park, which I think is done, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Pursuing a community center. That was another issue that was brought up. Under promotion, we looked at the city and private partners, mainly through Warren Main Street, expanding its programs, utilizing the new tagline, supporting the organizations that are already around, including the amphitheater and this facility, Cleveland Plus Marketing, working together on those things. None of us have enough money or manpower to do these things on our own. We all got to work together to get them done. Keep the website current. Looking at the business incubator in the downtown, I don't know the status of that project. Also, the proposed incubator at the Delphi facility, and looking at the peninsula area and making that a vibrant, river-oriented facility that could really complement the activities that you have with Veterans Park and the amphitheater and the municipal building, everything along the parks. So a lot that could be done there. Under design, looking at attractive gateways, and maybe even working with Holland and Warren Township, so that you have one gateway and maybe one side is welcome to Holland, the other side is welcome to Warren. Okay, and I know we had a lot of discussion about people complaining about the entranceways to Warren, and then we find out, hey, guess what? It's not even city property; it's in the township. So if we're gonna improve our entrances to our community, it may mean working with the townships to help that happen.